My name is Ava. Picture this: a chandelier, 12 relatives, and my sister, Victoria, in a power suit sharp enough to cut skin. She taps her glass, smiles like a knife. Starting next month, your rent is $6,800. Sign it, or pack. Laughter. Cameras out. And me? I smiled while my ribs felt like they were closing in. Ever been sentenced by your own blood in your grandmother's dining room? Ever had family call it a lesson while the fae press your face to the floor? Be grateful, she whispers. Grateful for what? Humiliation with dessert? If you were me, right there, do you swallow it or burn the script in front of everyone? Tell me in the comments. If this punches a nerve, hit like. Subscribe for the ending, where the crown slips and the truth doesn't. I read every word. Don't look away. I'm Ava. And here's the part nobody saw because I didn't post it or parade it at holidays. For years, I played the role. The nice one, the sweet one, the one Victoria could pat on the head while she racked up applause. They loved that version of me because it asked for nothing. It kept the peace. But peace can be a muzzle, can't it? It keeps you quiet while your ribs learn the shape of other people's expectations. I worked in property the way some people do crosswords. Patiently, obsessively, finding patterns where others saw noise. I loved walking dead buildings and hearing them breathe. But love doesn't photograph well. It doesn't wear a power suit. At family dinners, I got the softest, sharpest digs. Still doing that little landlord thing? It's cute you like fixer-uppers. One aunt mastered the pity head tilt. At least you don't have to worry, your sister's a lawyer. There's a difference between not answering and not noticing. They mistook my silence for emptiness. Truth was, I was collecting data. Who shows up? Who disappears when the heat breaks in January? Who takes 3 months to replace a flooded dishwasher and calls it market realities? Who says, "Be grateful, Ava. Most people in your bracket couldn't live here," like gratitude is a leash. My grandmother was the last person who looked me in the eye and saw more. Before she passed, we spent Sundays with stacks of manila folders and tea going cold. She slid me a card once, corners worn. Sometimes the quiet ones are the smartest. Remember that when the time comes. I didn't know what time meant until her lawyer called after the funeral. A modest inheritance, small on Instagram, massive in strategy. Not revenge money, seed money. So I learned. Midnight contracts, zoning code like a second language. I formed a company with a boring name, Riverside Holdings LLC, because boring names pass quietly through closed doors. I watched the building I lived in choke on debt. The owner wanted out fast, quiet, please. I built the offer, made it clean, made it legal, backed it with inheritance, savings, a loan I qualified for because yes, the cute landlord thing actually cash flows. He signed. I became the owner of the place where I'd been treated like a charity case. Meanwhile, Victoria kept managing the family portfolio, telling anyone who'd listen how she was subsidizing me. She'd say, "It's basically coming out of my pocket," like sainthood comes with receipts. I automated what she grandstanded. She did performance, I did maintenance. She collected credit, I collected rent. And I stayed quiet. Not scared, strategic. Let her monologue. Let them clap. Let them call me small while I drafted permits, filed insurance, paid taxes in my name. You ever hold a truth so heavy it keeps you standing straight? That was me. If any of this already has you clenching your jaw, drop a comment that says, "Quiet week." And yeah, tap like so this reaches someone who needs it. Because the next part? That's when the mask slips. It was a Tuesday night, of course it was. Cruelty loves weekdays. Grandma's dining room glowed like a stage. Chandelier, polished wood. The whole museum of our family's "We're doing fine" act. Victoria arrived dressed like a court verdict. She tapped her wine glass. The room hushed on cue. "Starting next month," she said, smile like a scalpel. "Ava's rent goes from $2,200 to $6,1800. Fairness." She slid a lease through candlelight like a knife across a tablecloth. Laughter, phones up, cousins smirking. One whispered, "Guess you'll need roommates." Another. Finally, a real-world lesson. My mother did that brittle smile, reserved for charity auctions and shame. Victoria leaned in. Sign or pack? You ever feel air exit a room that still technically has oxygen? My chest caved, but my hands didn't shake. Because I had texted earlier, on my way, documents ready. Reply, 15 minutes out. Victoria started lecturing, market comps. 7,200s, 7,500ers. I'm giving her a discount. She spoke to the crowd about me as if I were furniture. Be grateful, she said, and that one landed like a slap. I looked up and watched the familiar play. The golden child punishing the quiet one for staying quiet too long. I wondered, who taught her that cruelty was leadership? Who taught the rest of them that watching was neutral? Doorbell. Frown lines on perfect makeup. Who comes unannounced on a Tuesday? Me. I do. I stood, smoothed my sleeves, ritual more than nerves, and opened the door. Mr. Carver walked in, gray suit, leather briefcase, voice built for rooms that don't respect you until you own them. Good evening. I represent Riverside Holdings, LLC. Heads cocked. Confusion is loud in a quiet room. He handed out packets, title, taxes, permits, insurance. My name everywhere it mattered. Victoria blinked. Tenants? What is this? Mr. Carver didn't blink. Riverside Holdings purchased this building 3 years ago. The silence was a live wire. No, she said, voice cracking. I would have been notified. I finally spoke. You weren't the owner, V. You were the manager. Public records don't clap, so you never checked. Cousin swore. An aunt crossed herself. My father stared at the table like it could save him. Mr. Carver stacked the documents with professional mercy. All signed by Ava, sole owner. You could feel the room recalibrate, like a chandelier swaying after an earthquake. Victoria's face did something I'd never seen. It learned humility in real time and hated the lesson. I asked, voice steady, Mr. Carver, my sister's residential status? He scanned, Unit 4, month-to-month, tenant, gasps. Someone dropped a fork. Victoria reeled. I won't pay you a cent. Then don't, I said. But the market rate for your unit is $7,500. I've been giving you $5,500 because we're family. If discounts are bad business, I let the sentence hang like a trap she'd built for me and walked into herself. That wasn't revenge. That was balance. That was me putting the world back on its hinges. If you're feeling heat in your chest right now, share this video. Someone else is being taught a lesson at a table like that, and they need proof there's another ending. Comment crown slipped if you heard the snap when it fell. For days after, my phone did the thing. Silence, then pings like hail. Victoria first, of course. The voice that could out-argue judges came thin at 1:13 a.m. Ava, we can work something out. You can't actually expect me to pay you. The word you stretched like an insult. I almost laughed. You raised my rent to $6,800 without blinking, I said. Why would I treat you differently than you treated me? She went quiet and I heard it, the fracture where entitlement meets reality. Then my mother. You humiliated your sister. Do you know what this does to our reputation? There it was, our family's real religion. I didn't yell. I let the space do its job. Do you know what years of her public little cuts did to me? I asked. The jokes, the pity, the be gratefuls in front of company? You didn't stop it. You framed it. She hung up with a sigh that tried to say, how dare you grow a spine? It didn't land. Meanwhile, I did what owners do. Fix heat, repaint halls in warm tones that didn't apologize for being seen. Install cameras because safety isn't a luxury. Tenants stopped me in the lobby. Thank you for answering emails. Thanks for not talking down to us. I learned a simple truth. Power that takes bows is theater. Power that repairs is leadership. One evening, I locked the front door and saw Victoria on the sidewalk. The streetlight made her look smaller, or maybe she was finally the right size. She didn't bark. She didn't threaten. You've changed, she said, like accusation and awe had a baby. No, I said steady. I stopped letting you write my story." She blinked like the words nudged a bruise she'd never named. Shoes clicked. She turned away. The outrage online was healing. Strangers wrote the sentences my family never did. "You're not crazy." "Quiet doesn't owe loud an apology." One person commented, "Gratitude is not obedience." Pin that on your fridge. If this is hitting home, drop a comment and tell me the moment you realized you weren't small. You were just standing in a room that needed you small. Did I raise Victoria's rent to market? Yes, not out of spite. Out of fairness, the exact word she weaponized. Did I evict her? No. I offered the same choice she gave me, pay or leave. Accountability isn't cruelty, it's adulthood. And the sweetest part wasn't her shock. It was my quiet. Waking up without the old tremor in my chest. Drinking coffee in a lobby that's finally warm in January. Hearing the building breathe easier because someone is listening. If the first half of my life was learning to survive inside other people's applause, this half is about building rooms where nobody has to beg for dignity. That's the assignment. Not revenge, not spectacle. Just justice you can touch. Heat that works, lights that stay on, boundaries that hold. If this gave you spine, like the video so it finds the next person at a chandelier table. Share it with the friend who needs evidence that patience isn't weakness, it's timing. And subscribe, because I'm telling the rest. Contracts, permits, all the unglamorous moves that turn cute into power. I read every comment. Tell me, when did your crown stop fitting someone else's head and start fitting yours? Here's where I land. I didn't buy a building to crush my sister. I did it to stop shrinking in rooms that fed on my silence. Owning the deed didn't fix the ache overnight. My body still remembers the jokes, the be grateful, the way a chandelier can feel like a spotlight and a cage. But now I breathe without asking permission. I fix heat when it's cold. I answer emails. I keep my boundaries. That's not cruelty. That's care, with a backbone. And yet, the old guilt still knocks. Family scripts are sticky. So tell me honestly, am I in the wrong? Was holding the line fairness or payback? I think the real lesson I took is this. Love without accountability is just performance, and peace without boundaries is just silence dressed up. My job isn't to keep everyone comfortable. It's to stay congruent with my values, my work, my worth. If this hit a nerve, drop a comment and tell me where you'd draw the line. Hit like so it reaches someone stuck at their own chandelier table. Share it with a friend who needs proof that patience isn't weakness, it's timing. And subscribe if you want the unglamorous, practical steps that turn be grateful into I've got this.